Hi, my name is Katrina. I'm a senior chemistry major and I'm 22 years old.
My name is Michael Drought. I'm a professor of English at Wheaton College, and I specialize in medieval literature, fantasy, and science fiction.
My name is Becca. I am a senior and I'm majoring in psychology.
My name is Tommy Larson. I'm a business major and I'm 22 years old.
My name is Aiden. I'm 9 years old and I'm in 4th grade.
Hi, my name is Alvin Tran and I am 12 years old and I'm in 7th grade.
Hello everyone, my name is Juan Zhong. I'm the visiting assistant professor here at Wheaton. This semester I'm teaching child development and adolescent development.
My name is Kate Martin. I'm a philosophy major, class of 2020.
I'm Amy Leitz. I'm a senior at Wheaton, art history major.
My name is Tara Rochefort. I am a senior, class of 2019, and I'm a psychology major.
I'm Julia Mendros, and I am also the class of 2019, and I'm a business and Hispanic studies major.
The effects of technology on child development. So I have two children. One is a freshman in college, and one is a freshman in high school. And I have seen massive influence of technology on their development in different ways, in that my daughter had enough time to grow up and to sort of develop before the influence of cell phone technology was everywhere. So even 4 years of difference has been a massive difference. My son has had severe addiction problems with technology, being unable to control himself about not opening up his computer during class, or checking his phone, or having his phone or computer exclude everything else from his life. So my feeling about technology is that the way it has currently developed, particularly the way it's developed since around 2013 or so, has been to push towards the lowest common denominator of that small little dopamine release. And what that does, I think, for a lot of younger children is they never get past that. They're constantly brought back to the images on the screen, and it inhibits reading, it inhibits thinking, it inhibits social interaction face to face. And when we finally got rid of that, and when we got rid of his, we got rid of our own, my wife and I, during the times that he's awake and everything. It has been an enormous help that way. So I think that the impact on development has been incredibly negative because of that little dopamine hit of, ooh, there's another picture here, there's a novelty here, ooh, and yes, I got something, which it's basically the cell phone manufacturers and sellers and the social media companies are doing all the things that Las Vegas casinos do to keep people pulling slot machines, and except that we're doing it to very young children, and I think that it's a horrible mistake.
Well, I think right now in the United States, almost all children have some sort of contact with the media before age 1 and played like games on either an iPad or video games, and had contact with computer before age 4. So we see the increase and the prevalence of technology among children's life nowadays, and the impact, I would say, like, it has a lot of benefits and it also has risks.
A pro of technology, I think, is that technology allows us to access the outside world better than if we had no technology. And a con, I think, would be more so this generation than others with all the access to technology, almost becomes addicted to all the technology, becomes like a screen addict.
So I think there are a lot of pros and cons to technology and technological advancement. With regards to pros, I think one of the main ones is how it's impacted the special needs community. For example, there's this app called Prolico, and it has enabled people with developmental disabilities who cannot speak verbally to communicate with other people. With regard to cons, I think it really impacts people socially. I think people in general have gotten so used to communicating via technology that social anxiety has increased and people are just having a harder time communicating in general with other people.
The good thing about technology is that kid loves it and it's entertaining, but the bad thing is like if kids stay up to play it and they forgot homework and they wake up late in the school.
I think one of the big things is keeping connected. So not only keeping connected with like your family members who you may not see a lot, but also friends. So friends from college during breaks, or friends, like I've made friends abroad when I was studying in New Zealand. And I still keep in contact with them through social media, like Facebook and Instagram and other apps like WhatsApp. I think another thing is convenience. So being able to look up anything whenever you want. So you're doing research and you can just look it up on your phone if you forget something, or you're traveling and you want to look up a location, you can use your phone as a GPS, or look up the location of a restaurant really easily.
I think some pros of technology are the ability to like connect people from all kinds of places, like all over the world, and being able to keep in touch with people that you wouldn't necessarily be able to otherwise. Whereas some cons of technology would be it causes a lot of anxiety, I think, in a lot of like younger generations and our generation as well.
I think that the pro of technology is that you can easily communicate someone through a device such as like a computer or phone. And I think the con of technology is that like technology is very addictive.
The biggest thing is distraction. So for me, if I'm doing work and my phone goes off, I'm immediately like drawn away from doing my homework. I also think distraction in terms of always having like background noise, so always having the TV on or listening to music, and you don't think it's a big distraction until you realize you haven't gotten that much work done in a small amount of time. I think another thing would be reliance, so that's kind of similar, but reliance on technology, reliance on having your GPS in your pocket versus when you had to like print out maps places.
I think pros are convenience, especially with communication.
Also finding news articles online. Technology is definitely a good use of that.
And then cons, lack of personal connection with people.
I think for social media use, it's mostly for older children, like adolescents, and it's a way for them to social connecting with each other because it's a social network. And this is a wonderful opportunity for them to, because it's also a critical period, they also develop their identity. So it's a good opportunity for them to have this identity play, because all these social medias profiles, how they portray themselves and how they post their feelings, thoughts, and experiences. So it's wonderful venue for them to express themselves and also connect with each other. So I would say that it's more of an opportunity for them to be connected with each other than social isolation.
Do you think the increase in technology has impacted children's attention spans?
Well, in terms of the cognitive benefits of the technology, I think it actually promotes and facilitates children's learning. Well, back to the attention question, children are good at multitasking. So even though I haven't read any specific research on this topic, but I read a lot of research on the benefits of technology promoting children's learning. For example, they found out that when children watch these very hands-on activities, they tend to learn better. They have expanded vocabulary, and they engage more in this imaginary play.
Yeah, especially in college.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a problem.
I think in general, technology addiction is a problem and it's increasing, especially in the younger generations where the primary mode of entertainment is becoming technology based. And so it's limiting other coping mechanisms for handling stress of daily life.
So the way I would think of technology addiction is the use, particularly of phones, but also of laptops, just for the sake of using them, rather than using them as a tool for something else. So I don't think you're addicted to technology if you are using the technology to make music, to say do multi-track mixing of music, to create your own things, to make films, to write. I mean, it's helped immensely. But I think technology addiction comes when it's just for touching the phone or clicking on the computer. And I'm not immune to it myself, like reading stupid blog posts on the internet or flipping through the Daily Mail, which is sort of the ultimate garbage. I see it as addiction when you do it to the exclusion of things that would actually be more pleasurable if you were able to put the time into them. So flipping through hundreds of Instagram pictures compared to drawing something of your own or taking photographs of your own, that kind of thing, that's where I feel like the technology addiction has come in. I don't think there's anything in the slightest bit wrong with programming, with creating worlds, with doing things like 3D printing or all the stuff that we do in the makerspace. I mean, we have now the ability, you don't have to own a recording studio, you don't have to have the physical stuff that was so expensive in the past, but the problem is people have all that on their phone and they don't use it because we've kind of, as a society, allowed this, we've allowed ourselves to become a product of the lowest common denominator of stimulus into our lives in a very intimate way, and we need to rethink this and figure out what's going to be best for people, because I think it's incredibly harmful, not just for my own kid, but I've seen it for kids around, and I've seen my students struggle with it a lot also. So I think technology addiction is when you're using the screen simply to be using a screen or to be stimulating yourself rather than to be fulfilling any other goal you might have. And I think that the large technology companies, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, they have a lot to answer for the harm. They have the same amount to answer for as the cigarette companies did.
The need to constantly check your technology devices for updates and notifications.
Yeah, I would say like the use of your phone like at all times and always feeling like you need it with you.
Technology addiction is the excessive use of technology for just as a time waster and using it for different things, not necessarily always looking up knowledge, but also just scrolling through social media or just doing things to distract from things in your actual life and using it to waste time and not focusing on other things and just being on it all the time.
I think the biggest issue would be a social issue. I think that people use their phone too much in place of actual physical contact with people. If you're sitting in class and the professor isn't there yet, everyone's on their phones instead of talking to each other. Dating apps like Tinder, you don't need to talk to a person face to face. You just talk over the app, or you might start talking on Snapchat, but it's likely that you'll never physically meet. And I think that's something that, especially in the future, we might see hindering maybe the amount of marriages or stuff like that in the US. I guess we'll have to see.
Probably stunts social development.
Yeah, it definitely I think it makes people, it's harder for people to have a connection in real life.
Yeah, lack of empathy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of problems that are associated with it, And we need to think about what happens if technology all of a sudden goes away, and how do we live our life without this technology, in terms of social media, in terms of our phones, computers, tablets, TV. What are we going to do if all...
For the last week, I've been on my phone for a total of 3 hours and 41 minutes.
So on my phone / an iPad, I spend about like 2 hours or so.
Lies.
So I just want to preface this by saying this is not a good time to look at my phone percentage because I've been on it a lot this past week, more than normal. Spotify is my most used with a total of 24 hours.
Probably around 30 or 35 hours.
In the past, week, Instagram is 5 hours, Facebook is 3 hours.
Weekly total 37 hours and 15 minutes.
Are you surprised by that?
No. 5 hours a day sounds about right.
Snapchat's about 3 hours. Hulu is about 6 hours.
Has happened over the past 5 weeks is actually we have done a digital detox type program, not that we've done on our own. It hasn't been like, with a an institution or something like that, where he hasn't had his phone and his computer for 5 weeks, and he's a different child. He's a completely different child. He was not interested in anything except swipe, 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 swipe of whatever it was. He still gets to use my phone sometimes, and he can use voice as much as he wants to communicate with his friends and to have that kind of peer group through communication technology. But the entire Instagram, Snapchat, kind of just constant flipping, that's gone, and in its place he's rediscovered his interests in making things, his interests in music, his interests in reading. The child had not read a single book for the past 9 or 10 months. He's read 31 books in the past month.
I think if it was more widely dispersed, like information on the negative parts, especially like mental health or time wasting, if more people knew that those things were happening because they were on their phones for so long, it would help to minimize it, because people would have the information to know that they're actually doing something bad. And also it helps to have, like, promote things like meditation or something where you're not on your phone at all, and to show that that's a bonus to mental health and a bonus to health overall. And also just not letting people use it in places like a school in certain areas or when people are at work.
I think minimizing the access that people have to technology can be helpful, and especially like in younger kids. Like, don't give your kids an iPhone when they're like 5. And I think in terms of social media and everything, I think just making people more aware of how much time they spend on it and how it does affect mental health would help solve addiction.
I think that you could start educating people at a younger age. So start in elementary school even, educating people about not being so reliant on technology, or even educating parents on not letting their child be too exposed to technology, in terms of maybe like limiting a child's screen time. Right now you see so many parents just like handing their kids an iPad, and I think that's a big issue because they're becoming reliant on technology, and parents are relying on technology to calm their kid down in situations. What do you do when the battery dies of that iPad? How are you going to calm your kid down?
Try to live active lifestyle, so that really encourages me to not be on my phone and just kind of actually be doing something rather than looking down and trying to check social media or anything like that.
To minimize technology and social media addiction, we can encourage kids to play outside and do activities that don't involve technology, and encourage them to explore and do things on their